Ride the signal through the unknown. This is the cryptic current.
With increasingly extensive scientific research in recent years, more and more legends about Antarctica have become reality. For example, an ice cave larger than an island has appeared in Antarctica. Could this truly be an entrance to the inner world of the Earth? The blood calls are no longer a legend either. Behind this phenomenon seems to be linked to a previously unknown form of life. There are also legends about U.S. military activities chasing UFOs in Antarctica, which is not without basis. And many other things such as Antarctic music, Antarctic pyramids, areas of abnormal gravity, along with ancient lakes and giant squid trapped under the ice for tens of millions of years. Today, let's summarize all the known and unknown aspects behind the mysteries of Antarctica. A completely different Antarctica will surely appear before your eyes. Antarctica. Legends becoming reality. Hello everyone, I am Millennia's Ruby. In 1995, in a cave in the Arctic, exactly halfway around the Earth from Antarctica, scientists discovered a fragment of ancient human remains. Dating analysis showed that this person died 10,300 years ago. And isn't this precisely the time when humans are believed to have crossed the Bering Strait to reach the Americas? Therefore, this person certainly belonged to the first Mongoloid group to arrive in the Americas. I am not Mongoloid. At the same time, the local guide mentioned that the place where the skeleton was found is called Niuing Cave. Those who came before us. They almost always come and go from these caves, as if deep inside they connect to another world. Even before our ancestors, they were already living here. At that time, due to technological limitations, scientists could not conduct deeper DNA analysis of the skeleton. Additionally, this scientific exploration involved the religious issues of the indigenous people. Therefore, they were forced to stop. But at the same time, Dr. Tim Hogan, the paleontologist who discovered Sukaka, believed that this skeleton closely resembles a skull found at the other end of the Earth, in Antarctica. This skull was discovered in 1985, known as the Antarctic Girl. Excavated at Half Moon Beach, believed to be an indigenous Antarctic person, who died around the years 1500 to 1800. Yes, you heard correctly, an indigenous Antarctic person. This skull is very famous because if the identity of an indigenous Antarctic person is confirmed, then Chile, the country where her descendants live, would have the right to claim sovereignty over Antarctica. Although the International Convention stipulates that Antarctica does not, every country desires to possess Antarctica. Later. In summary, when Dr. Hogan mentioned the similarity between the two skeletons, one in Antarctica and one in the Arctic, a hypothesis about prehistoric Antarctic people emerged. The familiar human migration map shows that 15,000 years ago, Mongoloid people crossed the Bering Strait to North America, evolving into today's North American Indians. North American Indians then gradually moved south over thousands of years, developing into today's South American Indians. They continued moving south, reaching the place closest to Antarctica, Tierra del Fuego. Here, they were blocked by the stormy Drake Passage, and could not advance further into Antarctica. However, now these two skeletons seem to be saying, we are not the result of Mongoloid people gradually moving south and evolving. We have lived here since ancient times. We are ancient people from 10,000 years ago. They are always distributed from Half Moon Beach in Antarctica to Alaska and the Arctic. This is truly fantastical. Not to mention whether there are monsoons and ocean currents on Earth that allow ships to cross the Pacific Ocean, even with favorable terrain. Could primitive maritime technology 10,000 years ago have traveled that far? Or, like the Sukaka legend, they passed through the Earth's core to return to the Arctic and Antarctic. This explanation is clearly unrealistic. Thus, only one possibility remains. Sorry boy was wrong. These two skeletons essentially have no blood relationship. That was the conclusion drawn that way. However, with the advancement of technology, by 2017, Dr. Hoy Tran used DNA to prove that the kinship between the Sukaka people, the Inuit of the Arctic, the Chinkiet people, and the Mongols is very distant. Conversely, they have a very close relationship with the Antarctic Girl. At the same time, the Antarctic Girl has a very close relationship with the indigenous the natives of Tierra del Fuego. This means that In prehistoric times over 10,000, there indeed existed a super-level civilization capable of sailing between Antarctica and the Arctic. Moreover, their center was in Antarctica. Because the further south they went, the purer the bloodline became. And thus, the prehistoric Antarctic people were truly discovered by Dr. Hoy Tran. And with that, the problem emerged. According to the current hypothesis of human origins in Africa and migration, how did these prehistoric Antarctic people get from Africa to Antarctica? In other words, they are a prehistoric population that lived here 15 million years ago, when Antarctica was still a warm land. This hypothesis is too far-fetched because to correct this, the latest human migration map has been updated as follows. The time when the Mongols crossed the Bering Strait has been pushed back to 25,000 years ago, and their arrival at Tierra del Fuego in South America has also been pushed back to therefore 10,300 years ago. The appearance of indigenous South American natives in Alaska is likely due to them returning along the coast, rather than a science fiction story of prehistoric Antarctic people departing through the Earth's core and crossing the Pacific. However, while this explains the mysterious doubts about the northern Sukaka people, what about the southern Antarctic girl? How could her remains appear in Antarctica before humans set foot there? Speculations about prehistoric Antarctic people still reveal contradictions, so scientists tell another story like this. Theoretically, the first person to see Antarctica was Russian Admiral Bellingshausen. In 1820, he led a fleet to Antarctica and circumnavigated it, hoping humans complete this missing piece of the giant map for the first time. It turns out that Antarctica is a continent the size of North America. Additionally, the entire Antarctic continent is covered by ice sheets 1 to 2 kilometers thick. Bellingshausen's small 39-meter-long ship from back then witnessed such towering drifting ice mountains. Subsequently, expeditions from various countries arrived one after another. They observed Antarctica from afar and mapped the region. By 1901, Antarctica welcomed its first explorer from an inland country, Colonel Falcon. He came from the British Royal Navy, inheriting the family career at age 13 and joining the military. However, at that very moment, his father suddenly passed away. The financial burden for the family fell on Falcon's shoulders while he was still very young. Thus, Falcon appeared remarkably mature for his age. At 15, he was promoted to petty officer for inventing a new type of torpedo. At 31, he caught the attention of the Royal Geographical Society and became the commander of an expedition heading to the Antarctic continent. In 1903, Falcon first reached 82 degrees south latitude and discovered the Antarctic Plateau. The South Pole itself lies on this plateau. But simultaneously, their team also ran out of ammunition and food. They contracted scurvy, a vitamin C deficiency leading to anemia and physical weakness. The sled dogs also died one after another. Ultimately, the expedition had to eat the dead dogs to make it back to the ship. Yet the ship itself became trapped in Antarctic ice, unable to move. Falcon used explosives to break the ice and escape. Afterward, he successfully returned to Britain in 1904, becoming a hero and promoted to lieutenant. But not long after, in 1909, Falcon's competitor emerged. Another British explorer, Ernest Shackleton, reached 88 degrees south latitude, only 200 kilometers from the South Pole. Simultaneously, Shackleton's expedition returned in S. disastrous failed expedition, Shackleton. This placed immense pressure on Falcon, and by 1910, he embarked on his second Antarctic expedition. He vowed to reach the South Pole, bringing glory to Britain. This time, he faced fierce snowstorms and had to eat stew made from the sled dogs that had fallen one by one. Finally, on January 17, 1912, he reached 90 degrees south latitude. However, right at the South Pole, Falcon discovered a Norwegian flag already planted there. Indeed, this was the achievement of the legendary explorer Amundsen. He dressed simply, his sled dog handling skills were even more superb, and he reached Antarctica 34 days before Falcon. Afterward, Amundsen returned safely, while Falcon never came back. 10 months later, when the rescue team found Falcon's body, they discovered that besides his diary, he was clutching a fossil sample tightly. Back in school, his teacher had said this was a Glossopteris fossil from India. It proves that Antarctica was once connected to India. With a tropical rainforest climate, very warm. In this regard, Falcon was by no means inferior to Honest, because he not only explored but also completed humanity's first scientific survey of Antarctica. This is the history of humans in Antarctica from a scientific perspective. Theoretically, no one had set foot in Antarctica before 1820. Simultaneously, why is Antarctica so cold? Because when it separated from the continent 15 million years ago, an ocean current formed around it. This ocean current blocked the heat source from the surrounding, thereby transforming this continent from a warm region into an ice-covered plain. Simultaneously, the storms within this ocean current were extremely heavy. Before 1820, human maritime technology basically did not overcome it. However, an Antarctic girl's skull was discovered beyond this ocean current barrier. How could she have crossed this ocean current barrier? Turning back time to 1600, in a Spanish prison in Chile, a madman said, "I come from China. I am an envoy of the Chinese emperor. I am a sworn brother of the Japanese general. I know a secret maritime route leading to China, and I also know that Antarctica is the world's ultimate endpoint. I saw the 2 kilometers high ice wall in Antarctica and sailed along it for a full circle. As a result, I returned to my original starting point. Our Earth is round in the sky and square on the ground. Please help me report this news to the Chinese emperor." What's going on? 80 years ago, Magellan had already completed his voyage around the world. Any sailor knows the Earth is spherical. A shabby old man speaking Portuguese, how could he be Chinese? And even claims to be an envoy of the emperor? He's too delusional. But whenever questioned, this madman hoarsely protests with frenzy. Gradually, people stopped bothering to tease him and habitually called him the Chinese gentleman. Otherwise, he would ramble on with crazy stories about China and Antarctica. Thus, after the Chinese gentleman feigned madness in a Spanish prison for 5 years, he was deported by the Spanish and sent back to Portugal. However, who is the true identity of this Chinese gentleman? It turns out he is the legendary navigator Duarte Trainer, who helped Portugal open a maritime route to China and Japan. He truly was an envoy of the Chinese emperor and indeed knew a golden route to China. By then, Spain had already treated him as a madman and returned him to Portugal. It was all too late. So, how did this crazy old man end up in a Spanish prison in Chile? Could it be that the crazy stories about the Antarctic ice wall we told were not fabricated either? He drifted to Chile after his Antarctic expedition ship met with disaster. It's terrifying, but to be fair, did Duarte Trainer back then truly cross the Antarctic seawall and see the Antarctic ice sheet? Later, after returning to Portugal and no longer pretending, he told a story like this. Duarte Trainer said, "In the year 1599, when I was crossing the Strait of Magellan, a strong wind devastated the fleet. Followed by indescribable killer waves, the world turned dark and murky. My ship, the Gospel, was like an ant. When the storms subsided, I found myself at 64 degrees top latitude. There was an island ahead. We sailed over and landed on a crescent-shaped beach. Originally intending to find some trees to repair the ship, we discovered the sky here was always gloomy. On the island, aside from rocks, ice, snow, sea lions, and some strange flightless birds, there was nothing else. A few days later, we encountered a group of indigenous people. You shouldn't. Is this hell? It turned out in their mythology, the ocean is surrounded by icebergs of the world's end. Beyond those icebergs lies the void. However, beneath the ice and ocean hides another world, connected to the surface through some caves. They are the last group of exiles on the surface. Now their exile term has finally ended, and they can return underground to reunite with their tribe. They are about to depart and even invited us to join. Because for thousands of years, no one could cross the ocean boundary beyond that ice wall. You can no longer return to your original world. Duarte Trainer chose not to go with them, but a few crew members did, disappearing with them into the cave. Afterward, following their guidance, on a storm-free day in August, Duarte Trainer sailed the Gospel eastward. Finally, Duarte Trainer saw the massive icebergs. For 3 continuous months, it was all massive icebergs. They even knew how to sing, and made extremely mournful songs day and night. According to the cave people, this singing is the sound of their journey to the Earth's center. Following that, when the singing stopped, on a day in November, that indescribable storm struck again. The world turned dark, with signs of devastation in the waves. Finally, only Duck Schrenner drifted to Chile, a land belonging to Spain. After that, he was captured. This is the story of Duck Schrenner. Were the people in the story told truly the last group of humans in Antarctica? It's terrifying because at 64 degrees south latitude, at Half Moon Beach, wasn't the coffin of that Antarctic girl later discovered? In the end, scientists explain the story as follows. They believe that Duck Schrenner might not have lied, but he embellished some details. That Antarctic girl could have been a South American native. They took her aboard at Tierra del Fuego to serve as an interpreter and guide for seal hunting. And then during a storm, this girl unfortunately perished. When docking at Half Moon Beach, Duck Schrenner buried the woman there. The story is simply that. But later in 2017, scientists discovered such an incident in Antarctica. What did you just hear? This isn't the background music of a horror movie. This is real Antarctic music, the sound emitted by massive icebergs. Could it be that Duck Schrenner over 400 years ago wasn't lying at all? Antarctic ice sings. Could this be the music of the Antarctic people underground as they return to the surface? In 2017, scientists installed 34 seismic sensors under the Ross Ice Shelf. Initially, they wanted to monitor the ice shelf's movement for 2 years, but they heard such strange sounds. The entire Ross Ice Shelf is as large as France. The singing seems related to the collision of icebergs. And the change in pitch also seems related to wind speed. However, the origin of this sound, according to the latest research, is due to global warming causing ice to crack. And then under the influence of strong winds, the icebergs collide to create it. Although human ears currently cannot hear these sounds in recent years. Scientists have found the sound growing louder, predicting that by 2024 they will reach a level humans can hear directly. T-Mind, let. 400 years ago, in 1599, the last group of people on the surface returned underground. Duck Schrenner heard the ice singing for 3 months, and since 2017. Scientists have heard the singing gradually growing stronger. Does this mean the shuttle has resumed operation? A few years ago, only a few returned, but by the time human ears can hear it as expected in 2024, the return will be as Duck Schrenner described 400 years ago, on the scale of an entire tribe. So, who exactly is establishing contact with the people inside Antarctica? And why contact them? The story is truly a bit scary. Also in 2017, scientists discovered a massive ice corridor in Antarctica. Could this be the passage for Antarctic people to enter and exit the underground? There's also the Antarctic blood balls, the anomalous gravity area, the pyramid 200 times larger, the strait, the marine life in the urban exploration expedition that proved it, the newly discovered tomb in Antarctica that no one is allowed to excavate. Let's continue exploring together in next week. Our sharing session today will pause here. If you find this video or the content on our Maruti channel truly helpful, please share it with a friend to explore together. Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you again. Subscribe to the Gian Migo channel so you don't miss exciting videos.
If the signal hooked you, subscribe and catch the next ripple.